My mom and sister called the cops on my 5-year-old daughter. I came back from a work trip a day early and found her sobbing in front of 2 officers. She was terrified, thinking the strange men were going to take her away. I didn't scream. I acted. A week later, they were the ones screaming. I came home a day early, not because I missed my kid or had some motherly sixth sense, just a canceled client meeting in Austin and a sudden free evening. I figured, why not take the night train, surprise Charlotte in the morning, maybe grab donuts on the way. And okay, maybe my stomach felt off. But that's basically my default setting when my mom's involved. The key turned quieter than usual, probably because I turned it slow, like I was bracing myself for something. I just didn't expect that something. 2 cops were standing in the living room, one scribbling in a notepad. The other, young, polite face, was crouched down talking to my kid. My 5-year-old daughter, Charlotte, curled up on the edge of the couch, arms pinned to her sides, staring at the floor like she was waiting for a sentence. My mother, Phyllis, was looming nearby with her arms crossed like a judge who already had the verdict. My sister, Kendra, was holding her daughter, Nora, who was sniffly and fake sobbing into her mom's shoulder. For a second, I thought maybe they were at the wrong house, like maybe they'd popped in to ask for directions. But then one officer looked up at me and said, "Good morning. You must be Mrs. Cross. Mallory? Charlotte's mother?" I nodded. "Yes. What's going on here?" He shifted slightly, positioning himself between me and Charlotte. Not aggressively, just protectively. His tone softened. "Everything's all right. We were just responding to a call. There was a report of a dispute between children. One pushed the other. There was crying. We were told you were out of town, so we've been speaking with your mother and sister." I looked straight at my mother. "You called the police on a 5-year-old? Kendra jumped in like I'd offended her. "She hit Nora. She fell and was crying really hard." "Right." Nora, who was currently working her way through a cracker and sneakily watching Charlotte like she'd won. Charlotte still hadn't looked up. Her little body was shaking. I walked over, sat beside her, and pulled her into a hug. "She didn't hit," my mom corrected coldly. "She pushed. We tried talking to her, but she got mouthy. We thought maybe a quick chat with the police would help her understand this behavior isn't okay." The other officer finally spoke, raised an eyebrow. "For a 5-year-old? Ma'am, we don't typically conduct behavioral chats with kids who aren't even in kindergarten yet. We came because we were required to respond, but honestly, this kind of call isn't what emergency services are for." That's when Charlotte finally looked at me and started crying. Quiet, broken crying. Not loud or dramatic, just like something inside her gave up. I hugged her tighter. She wrapped her arms around my neck and held on like I was the only solid thing left. I rubbed her back and looked up at the officer. "So? There's nothing here that warrants further action," he said gently. "We've documented statements from everyone. No signs of harm. The child's shaken, but calm now. We'd recommend handling situations like this privately in the future, especially," he turned to my mother, "without calling in law enforcement unnecessarily." "You're not opening a case?" Kendra asked, already defensive. "No, ma'am," he said firmly. "And let me be clear. If this kind of report happens again, it could be considered misuse of emergency services. We have real emergencies. Don't waste our time." Then he looked at Charlotte and surprisingly smiled. "You're okay, Charlotte. No one's taking you anywhere. You can go back to playing now, all right? Just remember, sometimes other kids want to play with the same toy, and that's okay. But pushing isn't how we solve it. It doesn't make you bad. You don't have to give up your toy if you don't want to. You just talk about it, okay?" She nodded into my shoulder. He smiled at me, then walked out with his partner. The door clicked shut, and silence settled in. Well, except for Nora whining that she wanted to go to the park. Kendra was whispering something to her. Mom looked like she expected me to apologize. "You've lost your damn minds," I said. "Calling the police. On a 5-year-old. Over a toy." "Not over a toy," Phyllis snapped. "Over aggression. You spoil her. She thinks she can do anything she wants. Kids like that become problems in school. And grandmothers like you become stories therapists hear for years," I shot back. "What kind of adult terrifies a child with cops?" "I didn't terrify her," my mom replied, arms folding tighter. I just said if she didn't stop, there'd be consequences. That's not a threat. It's the truth. You told her the police were going to take her away. You know she's scared of strangers. Phyllis shrugged. Maybe now she'll think twice. I held Charlotte even closer. Yeah? Well, now you can think twice. You're never being alone with her again. Not you, not Kendra. That's done. Mallory, come on. We were just trying to help. You don't even realize what you did. She wasn't fighting over a toy. She was protecting herself, her boundaries. And you showed her that standing up for herself gets her treated like a criminal. Phyllis opened her mouth, but I raised my hand. No, that's it. We're done here. That night, back home, I was washing Charlotte's hair, helping her into pajamas, reading her a book about dragons. The usual routine, except I kept stumbling over the words because my brain wouldn't shut up. I pointed to the page. You know who my favorite is? The princess. Not the dragon, not the knight. The princess. Because she doesn't sit around waiting to be rescued. Charlotte was quiet. Then she said softly, Mom? Grandma said that if I told you, you'd get upset, because you'd be ashamed of me. I exhaled, closed the book. Okay. First of all, pushing someone isn't okay, even if they try to take your toy. Her eyes dropped. But that doesn't make you a bad kid. And no, I'm not upset. And no, I'm definitely not ashamed of you. She looked at me, really looked, like she was trying to read my face for hidden disappointment. Really? Really, I said. I'm always on your side. Always. And if you mess up, we talk about it. Just you and me. No strangers showing up. No lectures from Grandma. No guilt trips. No shame. Just us figuring it out. Deal? She nodded, nuzzled into my shoulder, and I just sat there in the dark, holding her, listening to her breathing, knowing that, this time, I got there in time. And knowing that from now on, I'm not stepping away. Not even for a minute. When a child falls asleep after a meltdown, there's this strange in-between moment, quiet on the outside, chaos on the inside. Charlotte had her face buried in my shoulder, breathing softly, finally calm. And I just laid there, staring at the ceiling like it might hand me the answer to the question that had been gnawing at me all evening. How the hell did I ever think these people were safe enough to leave my daughter with? I grew up in that family. Standard childhood in the most emotionally barren sense. My mom? Perfect makeup, frosty heart. She never yelled. Emotions were beneath her. Her catchphrase was, "Don't make a scene. Behave with dignity." If I was upset, she didn't ask, "What happened?" She asked, "And what are you planning to do about it?" I had an older sister, Kendra. Everything about her was polished. Straight A's, perfect ponytails, color-coded personality. The one thing she lacked was a spine of her own. She learned to mirror Mom before she could even spell her name. Always watching her like she was some instruction manual, how to act, think, breathe. I was the difficult one. Translation. I had opinions, spoke at the wrong times, thought too much, cried when things hurt, which, in our house, meant I was weak. My dad existed in the background, soft, warm, invisible. I think he loved us in his way, but he lived in the shadow of my mother. Sometimes he'd wink at me when she got especially unbearable. That was his version of solidarity. But he never stepped in. When I ran to my room crying, he didn't ask why, just brought hot cocoa. He was a life raft, not a shield. I left home at 19, took night classes, worked during the day, rented a shoebox apartment with a stunning view of a brick wall. I wanted to be a designer, so I became one. Now I'm 32, working as a UX designer for a small but steady company. Remote gig, occasional business trips. I'm not rolling in cash, but I make enough. Charlotte came along when I was 27. Her dad had great shoulders and the emotional range of a kitchen sponge. He seemed solid at first. Then he started flinching when she cried at night. 6 months later, he was always working late. A year in, he was gone. The divorce was quiet. Now he mails child support and the occasional card with a wonky dinosaur sketch. Charlotte barely remembers him. So with this not perfect but steady life, I let my mom back in. It started after Dad died. Suddenly, out of nowhere. brain aneurysm. Just didn't come home from work. Charlotte was 3. At the funeral, Mom was a statue. No tears. Just said, "I guess it's all on me now." We hadn't really spoken in years. A few stiff holiday calls, the occasional birthday text. But after the funeral, she started reaching out, checking in. One day she even showed up with a supermarket rotisserie chicken, not homemade, but still a peace offering. I thought, maybe she's changed. Maybe now, with Dad gone, she's trying to build something real. And I let myself believe it. Because grief changes people. Because she's still my mother. I started dropping by with Charlotte, then started leaving her there for an hour or two when I had errands. It was quiet. Kendra lived nearby with her daughter, Nora, age 4. They were often at Mom's. The girls played together, seemed fine. Kendra worked part-time as a teacher's aide at a private preschool. Barely minimum wage, plus whatever side gigs she could scrounge up after hours, when she could find someone to watch Nora. She'd bought her car the last year she was still with Nora's dad. He split, moved out of state, hasn't paid a cent in child support since. The case is frozen. No way to collect if there's no trace of his income. So Kendra leaned on Mom, and Mom leaned on me. At first it was small stuff. Insurance bills, fixing the water heater. Then it turned into a monthly ritual. "Can you help with this? Kendra's struggling. She's got a child, you understand." "Yep. Me too. Still paid. I even started covering part of Kendra's car loan every month. Otherwise, it'd be repossessed by now. Unspoken deal. I'm the one with a steady income, so it's on me. Because we're family." And for a while, I told myself maybe Charlotte would have it better. Maybe she'd grow up with what I never had. A warm family, silly Christmas cards, hugs that meant something, a cousin her age, a grandma who bakes cookies. I wanted that for her. I wanted her to feel like she belonged. But now I'm watching her sleep, and I get it. None of it was real. They never changed. They just played nice for a bit. My mom doesn't love Charlotte. Not really. She won't say it out loud, but you can see it in her eyes, that constant low-grade disapproval. Charlotte isn't a quiet little accessory. She's loud, bright, messy, fully alive. And my mother can't stand real. She wants polite, quiet, controllable. Like Kendra. Like Nora, who sits pretty on Grandma's lap with a bow in her hair, looking like she was manufactured in a box labeled Ideal Grandchild. Kendra knows the game. She plays it well. She knows who Mom loves more, and she leans into it. Nora's the new favorite. My daughter's the outsider. So when Nora shoves someone, it's a misunderstanding. But if Charlotte doesn't want to share her toy, red flag. Because children must learn to share. By age 3, per Grandma's handbook. I'm done pretending this is normal. I won't hand Charlotte over to their cold, judgmental little world again. They got used to me being the fixer. The one who helps, who pays, who smooths things over. And if something went wrong, I was the one to blame. Not anymore. I've picked a side. And I picked my daughter. The first 5 days were quiet. Like eerily quiet. No texts, no calls, no passive-aggressive photos of Nora with captions like, "Just imagine how sweet it'd be if the girls grew up together." Charlotte started sleeping through the night. I started breathing again. For a hot minute, I even believed I could live without that constant low-grade guilt lodged somewhere under my ribs. And then day 5 hit. I got the email in the morning. "You have successfully canceled your recurring payment of $278 to Kendra Wallace's loan account." I closed my laptop and sighed. Here we go. Kendra was first. "Hey Mel, did you forget? The payment didn't go through today. Probably a glitch?" "No, Kendra, not a glitch. Just the end of your free trial of my generosity." I didn't reply. Silence is a valid response. 3 hours later, Mom chimed in. "Mallory, I'm concerned. Are you okay? The utility transfer didn't come through. We're having another issue. The water heater's leaking again. I already called someone, but he sent a bill and I don't have the funds yet. Maybe it's a card issue?" Utilities. Uh-huh. I never paid the bills directly. Just sent her a set amount each month, per her request, for the utilities. But every time, it came with some story. Broken meter. Gas got shut off. This plumber's more expensive than the last one. It was obvious the stories were just decoys. The money was the point. I stopped asking questions, It was easier to throw $180 at it than play financial detective and end up feeling like a heartless monster. I didn't reply to her either. Just canceled the auto pay on her health insurance too. Let her call Medicare. Or hell. The next day, they decided it was time to bring out the heavy artillery. Kendra showed up in person, with Nora in tow. I was feeding Charlotte star-shaped mac and cheese. Nora stared at her plate like she hadn't seen food in days. "We were just nearby," Kendra said, not making eye contact. And I thought, maybe we should talk. Charlotte pressed herself into my side. "There's nothing to talk about," I said, slicing cucumbers. "Mel, come on. You know I don't have the kind of income you do. I've got a kid, and you've got Mom, and your daughter is her chosen one. You're doing just fine." She swallowed hard. Nora started sniffling. "So, you're really not going to help anymore?" Kendra asked. "Nope. And if you're hoping to guilt me using your kid, don't." She left without saying goodbye. A few hours later, Mom called. "Is this your final decision?" "Yeah." "So you're just leaving us in a difficult position?" "No, I'm just no longer sponsoring your lifestyle. You're grown women. You'll manage." "This is petty, punishing the whole family over one misunderstanding." "That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was police involvement in a toddler tantrum. You know exactly what it was. You're exaggerating. And you're minimizing. Doesn't work anymore. I'm done." "Well," she said, "don't be surprised when there are consequences." Ooh. What consequences exactly? That they'll boycott Thanksgiving dinner, where I'm already the only one who cooks? Terrifying. Later that night, Kendra sent one more message. "Sorry I came by. We're just in a really tough spot. I thought you still wanted Nora to have an aunt, for Charlotte to have a cousin, but I guess that doesn't matter to you." "It does matter. It matters that my daughter has people who are safe, kind, who don't smile while dialing the cops because she picked a doll from the wrong bin." I didn't answer. I just hugged Charlotte when she asked if she could draw a rainbow on the wall. "Of course," I said. "As long as it's in your room." She ran off for her markers, and I sat there in the kitchen, with a half-eaten bowl of Star Mac, a bunch of canceled auto pays, and this weird, unfamiliar feeling in my chest. Relief. 5 years I spent bending over backward for people who treated my child like an afterthought. Now, everything's finally where it should be. They're going to struggle. But me? Not anymore. About a week after the 5th, aka the day they didn't get their money, the real fun began. I went to pick up Charlotte from preschool like I always did. 4 o'clock sharp, gummy bears in my coat pocket, her favorite kind. But this time, the usual warm smiles from the other parents were replaced with sideways glances and whispers. One of the PTA queens acted like she didn't even see me, which was funny, considering she's usually glued to my side for small talk about gluten-free lunch hacks. When I stepped into the coat room, a few moms were chatting animatedly until I walked in. Then silence, like someone hit mute. A couple of them, Kim with her ever-present Stanley tumbler, and Leslie, the Pinterest braid queen, looked at me like I'd shown up to snatch their kids, not my own. "Hey, Mallory," one of them said eventually, giving me a tight, awkward smile. Everything okay with you guys?" Translation: "We were just talking about you and now we don't know where to look." "Great, thanks," I said, helping Charlotte zip up her coat. She pressed against me, quiet as a mouse. "It's just..." She glanced at the others. "We, got this message. Anonymous. About some incident with the police. Something about Charlotte having... how did it put it? Anger issues." I took a deep breath. The kind of breath you take when your first instinct is to say, "Why the hell are you gossiping about a 5-year-old?" But instead, I went with option B. Calm. "Interesting. And who exactly sent this?" There was no name, just an email and screenshots. A piece of what looked like a police report. Supposedly. Supposedly, I repeated. "And you believed it?" They looked at each other. Their silence said more than any words. Right then, Miss Sanders, the lead teacher, came out from the classroom. She had the look of someone who didn't want to be involved, but was legally required to care. "Mallory, can I speak with you for a moment?" We stepped aside. Charlotte stayed by her cubby, twisting her mitten between her fingers. "There's no problem with Charlotte," she said immediately. "She's kind, cooperative, social. If anyone's snatching toys, it's not her." "Then what's this about?" "Two parents approached me today. One of them was actually concerned whether their child was safe being in the same group as her." I tried to smile. It didn't go well. "Any idea where they got their info?" "One of them showed me a screenshot. An email, supposedly from a family member, said Charlotte had behavioral problems, that the police were already involved." I closed my eyes. "Want to know where it really came from?" "Only if you feel like sharing," Miss Sanders said gently. I looked her straight in the eye. Charlotte had a spat with her 4-year-old cousin. Her grandma and aunt decided she needed a lesson, so they called the police on a 5-year-old because she didn't share a toy. "Oh, and now I guess they're expanding their smear campaign to the general public, probably hoping I'll panic and start wiring them money again." Miss Sanders didn't say a word, just gave a long, slow nod. I walked back to Charlotte. The moms were still huddled nearby, waiting for the next episode. I sighed. In this neighborhood, rumors move faster than preschool RSV. Sometimes it's easier to just give them a headline. "In case you're wondering," I said calmly, "I've got a complicated relationship with my mother. She chose to handle things creatively. Charlotte's fine. The police are not on speed dial. Thanks for the concern." They all started nodding and smiling awkwardly, murmuring, "Oh, got it," and "good to know." I smiled just enough to end the conversation and took Charlotte's hand. She squeezed my hand hard as we walked to the car. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "It's okay, baby. Grown-ups love to talk, even when they don't know what they're talking about." That night, he texted, "Hey, I just got a weird message about the police in Charlotte. What's going on?" Of course. The great volcano of child support and occasional birthday cards had awoken. I sighed and replied, "My mom called the police because Charlotte pushed her cousin. Sounds crazy? That's because it is. Cops showed up, saw 2 little girls in princess dresses, drank a bottle of water, and left. Everything's fine." He called. "Wait, is that seriously what happened?" If I wanted to write a drama, I'd go with something flashier, maybe a house fire or a puppet trial. I just don't know if I should step in. Maybe she'd be better off with her father? I almost laughed. "Really? You? Step in? You've spent 5 years toggling between sending a gift and forgetting her birthday." "Well, I do pay child support. A payment doesn't make you a parent. You want to step up? Do it. Want to fight for custody? Good luck. But let's be honest. She doesn't know you, and you don't know her. If one anonymous message made you this reactive, maybe start by Googling emotional manipulation." "I'm just concerned." "Then be concerned consistently, silently. At least that'd show some stability." He hung up. The next day, Kendra was waiting for me, standing by the preschool gates like a therapist with boundary issues. Nora was with her. "You serious right now, Mallory?" "Nice to see you too, Kendra. How's your evening?" "This isn't mature. You just stopped helping. No warning." "Oh, and you gave me a heads up when you called the cops on my 5-year-old? She rolled her eyes. "That was Mom. Her call." "And what were you doing? Baking muffins?" "You stood there and nodded along. Or egged her on. Either way, not innocent." She sighed. "Mom and I aren't even speaking anymore. Because of you. You blew up the family." "Me? I ruined the little club you built without me for 10 years? The one I was only invited to when you needed cash and a free babysitter?" "You're just being vindictive." "I'm protecting my daughter. Something you forgot to do." Kendra looked down. I exhaled. "You're a mom too, Kendra. Imagine if someone used your kid to make a point. If Nora was sitting alone, shaking, and you had no idea. How would you feel?" She didn't say anything, just took Nora's hand and walked away. Charlotte saw the whole thing. She looked up at me and asked quietly, "Are they not coming anymore?" I knelt down beside her. "No, sweetie, they're not. And if they ever try, I'll protect you. I promise." A few days later, I showed up at preschool a little early and asked to speak with the director. We stepped into her office. I closed the door behind me and laid it all out. No sugarcoating. The police call. The grandmother who thinks parenting is a medieval inquisition. The smear campaign in the parent chat. How my 5-year-old had to cling to me like I was her life raft. "I'm really sorry you've been through all that," she said when I finished. "I hear you. No one except pre-approved contacts will be allowed near your daughter. Would you like that in writing?" "Yes, please. And no baby talk, no fake sweet voices, no give auntie a kiss. Nothing. 0 access." She nodded. "We'll follow protocol. I'll also brief the teachers in case either of them shows up at the door." "Thank you. And if any of the other parents ask, feel free to say it's a safety issue. No details." I walked out of there feeling like I'd just cleaned the kitchen after a pot of milk exploded on the stove. Not perfect, but not sticky anymore. The next day, I filed for a temporary restraining order, straight through the court website. Just like online shopping, pick your quantity too. List the reason, attach screenshots. Estimated delivery, 5 business days. They got the papers on Thursday. I know because that day, for the first time in forever, no texts, no calls, no doorstep performances with wide-eyed children. Just peace. Real, actual peace. That evening, Charlotte and I had ice cream. She chose vanilla. I picked salted caramel because after filing court paperwork, your caramel has to be salted. She was drawing a rainbow on her wall. Yes, I let her. In her room only. Pencils only. No ceiling murals. "Mama, can I draw a dragon too?" "Of course, but he has to be nice." "He's gonna protect the rainbow," she said, and ran off to grab her green marker. I watched her go, curled up in my chair with a throw blanket and tea, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared. No calls, no surprises, no guilt bombs, no one knocking, demanding, guilting, or gaslighting. They can be mad. They can write long, passive-aggressive monologues. They can tell extended family what an ungrateful daughter I am. I don't have to be the good one anymore. I just have to be her mother. And I'm on her side. Always. A month later, Kendra missed another car payment and texted Mom. "If they repossess it, I literally can't work." Mom forwarded it to me. I didn't respond. Months passed. The bank took the car. Kendra now walks to her evening gigs and begs the neighbor to babysit Nora as a favor. Mom sends me texts about her routine checkups, her sky-high utility bills, and how the system is unfair and won't cover her insurance. I don't answer. I'm no longer the family emergency fund, no longer the one who understands. Let them figure it out. Or not. Either way, it's no longer my job. Meanwhile, Charlotte learned the alphabet, mastered French braids, and started believing, again, that home is a safe place. We put glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling, made pancakes for dinner, and cracked up over cartoons. I finally got it. Family isn't who you owe. It's who holds your hand, not your throat. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my story. I'm genuinely curious. What do you think? Did I do the right thing? Or maybe I waited too long to act? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story hit home, go ahead and subscribe. There's more where that came from.